Multiple Holy Day Sunday, everyone. Happy Easter. Happy second day of the writing of the Book of the Law. All sorts of things happening. I don't have a particular Easter message for us today. Of course, not being officially a Christian of any kind anymore. I don't subscribe to the literal objective myth of the resurrection, but I do, of course, believe in what I think the resurrection is about. Okay, be that as it may, This is April 9th. The feast of the second day of the writing of the Book of the Law, and there's all sorts of things being posted today. I posted Constance reading the second chapter. I posted it on Facebook, and if you can't find it on Facebook, please look it up on YouTube, because it's a wonderful reading of the second chapter. I've got one on YouTube too, and everybody, there's lots of people reading the second chapter on their Facebook page today. I'm going to do something else, because as I grabbed this particular edition of the Book of the Law that was published by Weiser, or printed by Weiser, back in 1976. And for many years, this was the edition that we passed out, or we gave to members of Haru Raha Lodge. It's particularly good because it has the handwritten facsimile of the Book of the Law, in case you had any questions as to what it really looked like, and if the printed version was anything like what Crowley wrote down during the dictation period. And so I would say, when you're shopping for a Book of the Law, make sure that it has the facsimile included too, and then that's a more complete edition. This, in a way, is a paperback reproduction of the format of the Book of the Law, published in the early 70s by Helen Parsons Smith, the widow of Jack Parsons and Wilfred Smith, who had 93 publications at the time. And it included 5 very brief introductory prefaces, or forewords, if you will, officially an introduction. And it's all Crowley material. So I'm going to read you that this morning, because of all the things that are being published abroad and on Facebook about chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. This is how Crowley, in 1936, I believe it was, when it first came out. It says here at the beginning, March 21st, 1938. First section is the book. This book was dictated in Cairo between noon and 1 p.m. on 3 successive days, April 8th, 9th, and 10th in the year 1904. The author called himself Aiwas and claimed to be, quote, the minister of Hur Par Krat. That is, a messenger from the forces ruling this earth at present. as will be explained later on. And keep in mind, at present, when this was written, it was 1938. How could he, talking about Aiwass, how could he prove that he was, in fact, a being of a kind superior to any of the human race, and so entitled to speak with authority? Evidently, he must show knowledge and power such as no man has ever been known to possess. He showed his knowledge chiefly by the use of cipher or cryptogram. In certain passages, set forth recondite facts, including some events which had yet to take place, such that no human being could possibly be aware of them. Thus, the proof of his claim exists in the manuscript itself. It is independent of any human witness. The study of these passages necessarily demands supreme human scholarship to interpret. It needs years of intense application. A great deal has still to be worked out. But enough has been discovered to justify his claim. The most skeptical intelligence is compelled to admit its truth. This matter is best studied under the Master Therian, whose years of arduous research have led him to enlightenment. On the other hand, the language of most of the book is admirably simple, clear, and vigorous. No one can read it without being stricken in the very core of his being. The more than human power of Aiwass is shown by the influence of his master and of the book upon actual events. And history fully supports the claim made by him. These facts are appreciable by everyone, but are better understood with the help of the Master Therian. The full detailed account of the events leading up to the dictation of this book, with a facsimile reproduction of the manuscript and an essay by the Master Therian, is published in the Equinox of the Gods. And that is, of course, he's making reference to this that was published in 36. And this is what we've been reading from for the last couple weeks, almost since March 20th. Okay. I'm going to digress for a second and say that although from where I think Crowley was coming from here, this was absolutely true, what he says about the book. And it's probably true that he was being candid when he said, you're not going to understand it unless you're kind of my student, you know. But the line that sort of always did and will rub me wrong is he showed knowledge chiefly by the use of cipher and cryptogram in certain passages, set forth recondite facts, including some events which had yet to take place, such as no human could possibly be aware of them. Thus, the proof of his claim exists in the manuscript itself. Now, my big problem with people that tend to justify their own prejudices, their own bigotries, used to justify wars and genocide and all manner of atrocities, and blame their scripture, the Bible, or another holy book, a book that is unquestionably sacred to them because the book tells them the book is sacred to them. I always have had a problem with that. I always will have a problem with that. And the idea of using cipher and codes and things to justify your acceptance or rejection of a certain philosophy or religion or belief system or code of conduct stinks. And in the last 40 years, I've gotten so many, for me, countless communications from individuals claiming high spiritual status and a sense of omniscience and authority based on ciphers that they've uncoded out of their street address or their license plate number or the letters in their name and their parents' birthdays and things like that. And very similar to the loud and sometimes eloquently poetic ramblings of a schizophrenic homeless person who is absolutely convinced of that they are mouthing the words of God. Technically, they are, but so untechnically, there's something else. And to me, Crowley's use of that term in 1938, probably when this was written, was uncomfortably teetering on that kind of thing. But that's a digression, and it's my own personal opinion. Part 2, the universe. This book explains the universe. The elements are new wheat, space, that is, the total of possibilities of every kind. And hadit, that there, hadit right there, that winged disc there. So, elements are new wheat, space, that is the total of possibilities of every kind, and hadit, any point which has experience of these possibilities. It's as simple as that. Walk into any white bread Masonic lodge in the world, and you're likely to see in the east a circle with a dot in the middle. New wheat, hadit. And on either side of the circle, two horizontal lines like the legs and the arms of new wheat on either side, said to represent the summer and winter solstice, or the feasts of the Saints John. Okay, I'm going to repeat that. This book explains the universe. The elements are new wheat, space, that is the total of possibilities of every kind, and hadit, any point which has experience of these possibilities. This idea is for literary convenience, just literary convenience, symbolized by the Egyptian goddess Nuit, a woman bending over like an arch in the night sky. Hadit is symbolized as the winged globe at the heart of Nuit. Every event is a uniting of some one monad with one of the experiences possible to it. It's a very simple sentence and a very profound idea. Every event is a uniting of some one monad with one of the experiences possible to it. Every man and every woman is a star, that is, an aggregate of such experiences, consistently changing with each fresh event, which affects him or her either consciously or subconsciously. Each one of us has thus a universe of his own, but it is the same universe for each one of us as soon as it includes all possible experience. This implies the extension of consciousness to include all other consciousnesses. At our present stage, the object that you see is never the same as the one that I see. We infer that it's the same because your experience tallies with mine on so many points that the actual differences of our observations are negligible. For instance, if a friend is walking between us, you see only his left side and I his right. But we agree that it's the same man. Although we may differ not only as to what we may see of his body, but as to what we know of his qualities. This conviction of identity grows stronger as we see him more often and get to know him better. Yet all the time, neither of us can know anything of him at all beyond the total impression made by our respective minds. The above is an extremely crude attempt to explain a system which reconciles all existent schools of philosophy. Part 3. Not chapter 3. Part 3 of this introduction. The law of Thelema. And there's a footnote on the word Thelema. Thelema is the Greek word for will and has the same numerical value as agape, the Greek for love. The law of Thelema. This book lays down a simple code of conduct. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will. There is no law beyond do what thou wilt. Unquote. This means that each of us, stars, is to move on our true orbit, as marked out by the nature of our position, the law of our growth, the impulse of our past experiences. All events are equally lawful and every one necessary in the long run for all of us, in theory. But in practice, only one act is lawful for each one of us at any given moment. Therefore, duty consists in determining to experience the right event from one moment of consciousness to another. Each action or motion is an act of love. The uniting with one or another part of nuit. Each such act must be under will, chosen, so as to fulfill and not to thwart the true nature of the being concerned. The technical methods of achieving this are to be studied in magic, and that's in a quote, or acquired by personal instruction from the Master Therian and his appointed assistants. Part 4, Section 4, the new Aeon. I love this understatement. The third chapter of the book is difficult to understand and may be very repugnant to many people born before the date of the book, April 1904. It tells us the characteristics of the period on which we are now entered. And he's still talking from a position of not only from 1904, but he's writing this, let's assume, in 1938. That's when it was published. Let's see, what was getting ready to happen in 1938? Oh, the invasion of Poland by Hitler in the beginning of World War II. Okay, right. Superficially, they appear appalling. We see some of them already with terrifying clarity. But fear not. It explains that certain vast stars or aggregates of experience may be described as gods. One of these is in charge of the destinies of this planet for periods of 2,000 years. And there's a footnote. The moment of change from one period to another is technically called the equinox of the gods. In the history of the world, so far as we know accurately, there are three such gods. Isis, the mother, when the universe was conceived as simple nourishment drawn directly from her. This period is marked by matriarchal government. Next, beginning in 500 BC, Osiris, the father, when the universe was imagined as catastrophic. Love, death, resurrection, as a method by which experience was built up. This corresponds to patriarchal systems. Okay, I'm going to digress for a second. From this reckoning, and of course Crowley can be found in his writings to say that the aeons can be of any length whatsoever, but he's roughly chopping them up in 2,000-year periods, or the 2,400 years, that astrologers attribute to the zodiacal ages. But from 500 years BC to, say, 1904 is the Osirian period. And I'm bringing that up because it's Easter. It's Resurrection Sunday. When the universe was imagined as catastrophic, love, death, resurrection, as a mean by which experience was built up. INRI. Okay? I threw that in. This corresponds to patriarchal systems. Now, Horus, the child, in which we come to perceive events as a continual growth, partaking in its elements of both these methods, and not to be overcome by circumstance. This present period involves the recognition of the individual as the unit of society. We realize ourselves, as explained in the first paragraphs of this essay. Every event, including death, is only one more accretion to our experience, freely willed by ourselves from the beginning, and therefore also predestined. Thus God, Horus, is a technical title, Heru Ra Ha, a combination of twin gods, Rahur Kuit and Hur Par Krat. The meanings of this doctrine must be studied in magic. He is symbolized as a hawk-headed god enthroned. He rules the present period of 2,000 years, beginning in 1904. Everywhere his government is taking root. Observe for yourselves the decay of the sense of sin, the growth of innocence and irresponsibility, the strange modifications of the reproductive instinct, with a tendency to become bisexual or epicene, the childlike confidence in progress combined with a nightmare fear of catastrophe, against which we are yet half unwilling to take precautions. Consider the outcrop of dictatorship, only possible when moral growth is in its earliest stages, and the prevalence of infantile cults like communism, fascism, pacifism, health crazes, occultism in nearly all its forms. Religions sentimentalized to the point of practical extinction. Consider the popularity of the cinema, the wireless, the football pools and guessing competitions, all devices for soothing fractious infants. No seed of purpose in them. Consider sport, the babyish enthusiasms and rages which it excites, whole nations disturbed by disputes between boys. Consider war, the atrocities which occur daily and leave us unmoved and hardly worried. We are children. How this new Aeon of Horus will develop, how the child will grow up, these are for us to determine growing up ourselves in the way of the law of Thelema under the enlightened guidance of the Master Therian. And finally, part 5, the next step. Remember, this is written 1938. Democracy daughters. Ferocious fascism, cackling communism, equally frauds, cavort crazily all over the globe. They are hemming us in. They are the abortive births of the child of the new Aeon of Horus. Liberty stirs once more in the womb of time. Evolution makes its changes by anti-socialistic ways. The abnormal man who foresees the trend of the times and adapts circumstance intelligently is laughed at, persecuted, often destroyed by the herd. But he and his heirs, when the crisis comes, are survivors. Above us today hangs a danger never yet paralleled in history. We suppress the individual in more and more ways. We think in terms of the herd. War no longer kills soldiers. It kills all, indiscriminately. Every new measure of the most democratic and autocratic governments is communistic in essence. And this is even before, he's thinking about Stalin here. He's not thinking about Joe Hill or Pete Seeger. It is always restriction. We are all treated as imbecile children. Dora, the Shops Act, the motoring laws, Sunday suffocation, the censorship. They won't trust us to cross the roads at will. Fascism is like communism and dishonest in the bargain. The dictators suppress all art, literature, theater, music, news that does not meet their requirements. Yet the world only moves by the light of genius. The herd will be destroyed in mass. The establishment of the law of Thelema is the only way to preserve individual liberty and to assure the future of the race. In the words of the famous paradox of the Count de Phoenix, the absolute rule of state shall be a function of the absolute liberty of each individual. All men and women are invited to cooperate with the Master Therian in this great work. Now, all of that, and that's the end of those 5 little introductions to the 1938 edition of the Book of the Law. And we have to kind of put that in perspective. From a personal point of view, his use of the word socialistic is in his mind, not at that time, not what we would think of it today. And his disgust of fascism, dictatorship, things like that would put him kind of in a different camp. Yet many of those who would lean in that direction today take great comfort in Crowley's works and say, see, he was a fascist. He was under the guise of libertarianism. Of course, you're free to interpret things any way you want. In real life, Crowley attended socialist rallies. In real life, in personal life, Crowley despised Hitler when his certain German disciples before World War II were saying, hey, this Hitler guy is great. He said, screw you. Watch out for that guy. Okay. But anyway, so isn't that a great Easter message? Well, anyway, tomorrow's the third chapter Monday, and I eat some eggs. Until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself, be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law, love under will.